There it is. This session is now being recorded. We are on the record, folks. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Creating Supporting Games with ColdFusion. I am going to be your host for the next hour or so. My name is Mark Takata. I am the technical evangelist for Adobe ColdFusion. And thank you all for showing up. Goodness, we have a pretty good house. We have a lot of people in the house today, about 60 people. That's awesome. Love it. Scott Kelly's here. Holy moly. Okay, well, now it's a party. Scotty over here, this guy, he lives in my town. He's wherever he's at, the party's at. So that's amazing. Black Hat CF. Awesome. Well, listen, so I just wanted to hit up a couple of things before we start. Because there's a few things coming up that are really, really big. I want everyone to be aware of them. First thing, you may or may not have seen a post about the VS Code extension for Adobe ColdFusion Builder. In the past, we've sold a copy of, we've sold the IDE called ColdFusion Builder, and it was available for free if you bought a license for a server, but otherwise you'd have to pay for it. None of that is happening anymore. We now offer a free VS Code extension. You just go to the marketplace, search for ColdFusion. We named it correctly. The rename happened. The beta had the wrong name. But now if you type in ColdFusion, scroll a little bit, you'll find Adobe ColdFusion Builder extension is the name. Grab it. Use it. It's awesome. Read the docs, though, because it takes a little bit of getting used to it. Please, I want those download numbers up there. I want to make this the most popular IDE for building ColdFusion on the planet. I've been using it for 6 months. I love it. It's my favorite thing. I'll be using it today. You'll be seeing it running on my screen. Thank you, Apurva. Apurva just linked it there. Perfect. It is not beta. No, Jim. It is version 1.n. So we are continuing to update it. There's lots and lots of community feedback. There's lots of things we want to do to make it better and continue to make it better. We've solved a lot of the buggy weirdnesses with the server stopping and all that with this latest build. So if you had the beta, if you had the old version, go ahead and unload it, pull it out and reinstall it, and you'll see the version will go up to version 4. Hold on. The version you want is, hold on. Boop, boop. There it is. 1.0.443 is the version that you're going to want. Oh, it's conflicting with my other extensions. That's weird. Try it again, Jim. And if it continues to do that, go ahead and throw in a bug. We're trying to make this work with everybody's extensions. I know that there was an issue with GitLens for a little bit, but I thought that got fixed. So yeah, no, we want people to use this. So if you're having issues with it not working with other extensions, please let us know. We're trying to kind of remove those collisions. There's so many extensions. It was hard to kind of figure them all out ahead of time. Anyway, so that is that. The other thing that I would like everyone to know about, and you probably have already heard about it, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. ColdFusion Summit is coming in October 3rd and 4th. Sorry, it's Monday and Tuesday. October 3rd and 4th in Las Vegas. It is in person only. There's unfortunately no virtual thing happening in parallel. We will be trying to record some of the sessions for release later, so you'll be able to catch some of them. But obviously, it's not the same. You won't be able to ask questions of the devs. So if you can make it out there. Oh, Jim, just have her get married at Summit. I am a minister. I could be your officiant. Let's talk, you and me. We'll get her there. Yes, if you can, please, Apurva, if you could link the link to ColdFusion Summit, please. If you can make it, if you hadn't heard about it and you're like, Mark, CF Summit, that sounds awesome. I should go. Yes, you should. It's going to be super fun. 27 different sessions across 3 tracks, across 2 days. We've got everything from, purely ColdFusion stuff to databases, to how to get out of technical debt, to how to create an entrepreneurial situation for yourself. If you've been thinking about doing a side hustle and you're an engineer, you don't know how to start a business, We've got someone who literally did that. She's actually a former engineer for Intel who is now running 3 businesses. That's going to be a great talk. It's going to be standing room only, so make sure you get there early for her talk. We've got a wonderful, amazing, hilarious keynote speaker on day 2 in the morning. Joel H. Cohen is a writer for The Simpsons and an absolutely hilarious person. Just every time I talk to this guy, I can't, like, my belly hurts because I'm laughing so hard. So he's going to open up day 2 because the night before we're going to have a party at the pool and everyone's going to be really tired the next morning. So we wanted to make sure that we had something to pull you all out of your beds in the morning, but that's going to be super fun too. So please check it out. If you can make it, get out there. If your team wants to send multiple people, get in touch with me. I can make that easier on your team. Okay. So just let me know. I've got coupons. I've got other ways to kind of help you out. But please, if you don't want to miss this, let me just say, this is my first, this is going to be my first summit as the evangelist. And so, it's going to be, as the kids say, lit. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about creating and supporting games with ColdFusion. So let's talk about making games, because I have a little bit of a story there. Like, if you asked me what I would have been if I had become what I thought I'd become when I was a kid, like if you ask kids, like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a fireman. I want to be this. I want to be that. I would have said, I want to be a game developer. I want to make games. I didn't know the term developer back then because I was a little kid. But ever since I was really young, I loved games. I still do to this day. I grew up in Poland under communism in the 70s. So we barely had, like, food. We didn't have liquid milk. We ate dried milk, right? Like, it was, I certainly didn't have video games. My first Christmas here, when I got out of Poland and moved to New Jersey, my first Christmas, I got an Atari 2600. And to me, it was an awakening. I mean, playing games was so amazing and so incredible and just made me so excited. I loved it. I wanted to make them. So as soon as I could, I would go and I would get these computer magazines, and all of them in the back would have these programs in Apple Basic, and I would fire up. I eventually ended up getting a little Apple computer, like a Apple IIc, I think I had, and I would copy the program line by line, and then at the end of it, I'd have some little game that I could play, like, pew pew pew, little asteroids or whatever. And I thought it was so amazing and just such an amazing thing. And when I was still very, very young, I had this thing that I would do every month. One of my parents, usually my mom, but sometimes my dad, would take me to the bookstore, and the bookstore had a video game area. And I would every month look to see which games had come out, and try and see if I could get a new game with my allowance and all this stuff. And it kept me busy, so they kind of let me do that. And so I came into the store. I don't remember what it was, but which store it was, but this was a long time ago, and in the 80s. And I saw this thing that I'd never seen before. It was a game maker. It wasn't a video game, right? And at this point, I'd played, like, I think I maybe played Zork, or I'm not sure which games I had played, but by this point, but there was this thing. It wasn't a video game. It was a way to make games, and I thought this was my way. Like, I was gonna get this and buy it. Now, of course, now that I'm much older, I realize probably would not have made me a video game maker, but it could have, sparked some creativity from me. Well, long story short, my dad had taken me that time, and he was not buying it. It was much more expensive than one of my normal games. I would have had to use, like, multiple weeks of allowance, and so basically I left the store without it. And I'm going to tell you, I was a kid, right? So I was like I was very upset. And so upset, in fact, that about halfway home, he realized, oh, maybe I should have gotten this for him. And of course, me being the little tiny jerk that I was at the time, I said, no, I don't want it now, right? So that experience actually informed the next almost 15 years of my life. I stopped doing computing stuff, essentially. I still did it a little bit on the side, but I had no more interest in building games. And I didn't for decades. I became a professional skater. I mean, I went totally the other way, and eventually fell back into computers. As you can see, I've been doing this for 25 years now. But even then, I built applications. I built websites. I was a designer. I was a UX person. I did database design. I didn't do games. But the funny part there is I didn't do games because I didn't think I could do games. And that's really what I want everyone who's here, all 74 of you, to really understand, that if you like video games of any kind, and I'm not talking about just playing for fun, playing for education, for gamification, for whatever you want, businesses can use games to drive engagement, right? They are just apps. There's nothing to be afraid of in building games. And it took me decades. It took me decades to figure that out, that I had basically become a programmer who didn't think they could program this one particular pattern. Okay. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. All of you today can go out and you can make a game. Now, I'm not saying, can you go and make Destiny 2 or World of Warcraft? No, clearly not. Like, you're not going to go out and make the next world beater game on your first try. I mean, I don't think you will. Maybe one of you will. But the more likely scenario is you won't be able to do that right away. But that's okay, because you weren't able to build out the amazing applications originally. Sork, Elden Ring 2, and CF. Exactly. So let's talk about, what are some of the things that you can do to begin to start. So the first thing to think about when you're going to build your first game is the pattern of the game. And I see a lot of people coming in here and they're talking about a bunch of different patterns. So that's good. And all of us who play games, we're aware that there's, there's like command line games, right? Like Zork. Love Zork. I played all of them. Love them. Planetfall, also great, super fun game. There's visual games, there's roguelites, there's MMOs, there's shooters, like first-person shooters, right? And even those have subcategories. And the thing that I want you to think about is Defender, exactly. Defender, Space Invaders, right? All of those old school ones, Pac-Man. Like, think about the times that those games came out, right? The power of the computers and the amount of space that they had to hold the code was tiny. And the programming languages that they were using were not very easy to program it, right? None of them can hold a candle to the ease of use of something like JavaScript. I mean, you can give JavaScript all the grief you want to, but it's a fairly flexible, powerful thing. And computers are so fast and powerful right now, even though it's not as efficient as something like C, you can play a lot of, especially those games in it, right? And I've seen a ton of games moved over into the JavaScript world. And there's rendering engines, there's all sorts of fun stuff. But take a step back from that. Think about some of the more basic patterns that you're likely to be eaten by a GRU. I'll tell you a little bit about something like that. Remind me at the end when you're asking questions. Ask Mark about the GRU. So what you want to try and do for your first game, and I made this mistake when I first decided that I was going to start making a game. I decided to make my own game that had never been made before, and just flippity flop face planted on my face when I tried to do that because it was not good. There's code out there, like people have code that you can borrow that will let you just try out a game. So you copy their code, put it in your browser, and play it, right? Something like Pac-Man, not a lot of code to it. It's fairly easy to understand. Try it out. Pull it down, and don't use CF yet. So what we're going to talk about in a second is what CF is good for, but start out with something like a JavaScript game and look through the code and check it out. Choose game styles you like too. Like if you like, let's say Ms. Pac-Man. Like I remember, I love remember the tabletop Ms. Pac-Man games? Awesome, right? So fun. They were so good. And so once you have that though, how are you going to use ColdFusion in games? Like, how are you gonna do it? Well, so CF is really good for doing things like holding scores, whether that's the score currently in the game that you want to kind of keep going with like an asynchronous process that's like holding it, or value arrays. So let's say you have a puzzle game or you have an adventure game or something that you need to hold the contents of like what's on a screen or where you are in a maze or anything like that. All that data access, you want to hold that somewhere, and ColdFusion is pretty good at that. It's pretty fast, and again, you know, you gotta write your code pretty clean. You gotta make sure you've got a pretty good connection. You need to write your code such that your async processes aren't stepping all over each other. But that's more advanced. Like don't start off with a very dynamic game, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Tracking across sessions. So if you have a game where someone is like, let's say you have Zork. So you build, you know, ColdFusion Zork, and you want to save where the person is. ColdFusion's great for that, right? Data access. You can save the person's authentication information, where they are in the game, you know, how much gold they've gathered, what weapons they have, you know, which way they're facing. And you can save all that as a JSON array and hold it while they go and they grab a pizza and they come back and they go back to playing. Now, the other fun thing is, because we have all this access and asynchronous access to databases, we can actually track multiple players who are playing the same game. So theoretically, you could even have a multiplayer Zork. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Can someone please write this? I'm looking at you, Scott. So what doesn't work in ColdFusion? Well, so you guys jokingly said things like Elden Ring and Doom. And you're right. So those things probably are not going to work well in terms of like running the code for them in ColdFusion. Why? Well, because ColdFusion's a server language, right? It's doing the data access. It's doing all the stuff kind of behind the scenes that can support a game, but it's not going to do anything in the browser. You need another framework to do the browser-based rendering, to do the browser-based like where the person is on the screen. If there's multiple objects, like let's say someone fires a missile, and it's tracking something, like ColdFusion really is not a good thing for like keeping where the position of the missile is, right? You're going to end up getting lag. Things are going to get out of sync. People are going to jump around, and it's not going to be a good thing. So anything dynamic like that, for the most part, you're going to want to hold that inside of your JavaScript code, inside of your browser code if you're running it in a canvas or something like that. And then you're just going to use CF to do some of the background operations, like, you know, saving the person, like saving where the person is, saving what stuff they have in case their browser crashes. They can start back up and still be in the same spot or almost the same spot with all the same stuff that they have. Things like that, it's good for. So anything that requires, and when I say speed, I'm talking millisecond, microsecond type stuff. Like anytime you're doing a round trip to a server, the speed of light comes into play here, right? And on top of that, you're going through ColdFusion, which, you know, the ColdFusion is built to scale. It's built to go big. It's performant, but there's other systems that are more performant and are designed for things like games. I mean, even something like a Firebase, where it's a real-time, it's like a real-time database update system that's like tied into the browser using things like WebSockets, right? Things like that are more designed for that sort of thing, but you can still use ColdFusion. ColdFusion still has WebSockets, so there should be a way to do that. In fact, I think Minvo did a really, really good game where they used ColdFusion to kind of figure out where they were in a game world and track that. And by the way, had someone say like, well, you couldn't do like augmented reality in ColdFusion. I disagree. If you check out the YouTube channel and scroll down, there is actually a talk by one of our engineers who built a Pokemon Go clone using ColdFusion to track where the objects are geospatially in the world and pull that data back as the person is walking around. And then they use React Native to do the rendering and occlusion on the phone. So yes, you can do AR too. It is out there. You just need the other helpers that are included with it. So what are those optimal, gotta CF them all. So optimally, what I've found in building the few games that I've put together is JavaScript is just the way in the browser. It's just the easiest way. There's ways to do things where you're like doing server-side rendering and sending it to the screen. The speed of that is not enough, especially for like animations. And there's just a lot of really good libraries to handle that for you in JavaScript, and it works seamlessly with async calls. So use that. Animate using you can use HTML5 and canvases. There's a lot of nice animation things in CSS actually that you can leverage to do some of the basic stuff. And then use async calls. Obviously you don't want to do any kind of blocking. You don't want to do full browser refresh types of things. You're going to hit APIs, make sure that they are asynchronous so that there's no blocking happening. And when the data comes back, you display it. That's basically, what you want to. You could use little viewports for that. So what are game types that would work well for your first game? Well, card games are a really great one, right? You can download, people put stuff out there into the wild, like, open source card sets. And you can do traditional card games like, 5-card Monty or poker or whatever, if you just want to do the basic, or if you want to do like battle card style where you're doing like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or other things. You could come up with your own combinations. I mean, you could even do like, I thought a really funny one that I thought would be like a ColdFusion functions, like you throw down a card and it's like member function, anyway. It would be funny. I don't know how that would work, to be honest. I don't know which function's more powerful than the other function, but single screen animated arcade games. So this is one that I actually built. My very first game that I built myself was a game where you're flying through space and you're having to match the color on the screen by using these little sliders. And that really worked for doing a single, because it had animations, it had you flying through space, and the faster you matched the colors, the faster you went, and the colors would change, and it give you messages. There'd be like pop-ups like, oh no, the engine's broken, blah blah blah, right? And so that works really well. CF tracks the score, it tracked how far I've gotten, it tracked my name and authentication, it did all the kind of background stuff for that. So I'm actually hoping that I might release that as a game in the next 6 months. So look for that. It's called Hyperhue. Word games and puzzles, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be building a word game based on the very popular game that everyone I think knows, Wordle, that was sold to the New York Times for, I don't know, millions of dollars, and this person built it for their wife to entertain her because they were a programmer and they could build games, and then it turned into millions of dollars. So I hope she got all of that money because it was for her anyway. No, but yeah, adventure games. So and what I mean by adventure games is not necessarily command line like Zork, because that's the next one down, but things where you show a picture and maybe there's things that are clickable on the screen. So you could use ColdFusion to say, well, this is in this particular position on the screen. If you click it, this is the information that comes up, and maybe there's some dialogue, or maybe you have to make a choice, or you have to move to this space or use this on this, right? So building the engine that does the logic behind what the game does is a really good thing for ColdFusion, because there's not a lot of, you could have animations in like an animated GIF that plays or a video that plays or something like that, and it doesn't have to happen from the actual ColdFusion engine running it. And then finally, command line games. And this is actually another really funny one. And I'm actually waiting on the CF engineering team to improve CF Map, because I am planning, when they improve CFMap with some of the ideas that I've had for them, I am planning to build a command line Pokemon game, which is going to be just so annoying to play because you're going to have to carry a laptop around that's hooked up to your phone with a GPS on it. Yeah, it's going to be awful. I can't wait. It's like the worst gameplay experience and the worst UX that I could think of. And I'm just guessing it's going to be the most popular thing ever. It's going to make me a millionaire. So yeah, you heard it here first, folks. What games don't work well? Well, massively multiplayer online games like something like Destiny or World of Warcraft are not optimal. And I say that, and I kind of feel like someone is going to build one and just to spite me. And you know what? Please do. I think it's possible, but I think it's going to be very, very hard. And that's just because when you have multiple people coming in from multiple places, things like latency, the speed of their internet, having the animations that happen on screen be communicated to each other, they're really, really hard. Like, that's a lot of work. And a lot of these games, the reason why they work is because the programming language that they're built in is extremely fast. It's not necessarily a friendly way. They're written in C, for goodness sakes, right? Like who actually wants to write anything in C? Oh, don't kill me! Don't kill me! Don't send the ninjas to kill me. But there's a reason for that, right? It's because for them the developer experience is secondary to the performance of the game, and they will do anything they can to minimize lag by even microseconds. Like, microseconds are worth millions of dollars to them, right? If a game is really, really responsive and tracks people really well, you know, imagine playing something like Fortnite, and when you shoot, the other person isn't where they seem to be on your screen, right? That would be an awful gameplay experience. And it used to happen a lot when people's systems were just laggy in general. But that would be a problem potentially with ColdFusion. Arcade games that require database access for live dynamic components, right? If you need to track where the little alien is on your screen and you're going pew, 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 it doesn't really, it really doesn't work very, very well. So that's sort of the problem there. Like, yeah, and Jim says locking is your biggest issue. Yeah, like there's, and so I think what you mean by that, Jim, is like database locks and locks to reads, writes, that sort of thing. It's bad. It's not what we're built, and it's not what we're built for, right? It's like going to go drag race your pickup truck, right? And anyone who has a TRX can ignore me, but because you can't actually drag race that. But you know, that's not what they're built for. They're built for hauling stuff. They're built for towing stuff. They're built for work. And not necessarily for the types of performance that these things need. And then any dynamic where two players are actively in conflict, so people shooting at each other live, and I think I've kind of mentioned that, but I just want to reiterate that point. If you need to track where the other person is live at the same time, now that doesn't mean that you can't have multiple players playing against each other. Absolutely not. So you could have a race, for example, where people are doing races and you're keeping track of each of their progress, right? But they're in different places. Like, they're in 5 different ships and they're all flying. So this is something I'm going to add to my Hyperhue game, is you can join 4 other people and you can all play the game simultaneously, and it will track every second how far each person's gotten, and it will show you in a little dashboard who's in the lead, who's ahead, all of that type of stuff. That we can totally do. We have that level of performance, no problem, right? So what are we going to build today? I've got like 20 minutes left. Sorry, I've been like blah, blah, blah about stuff. So we're going to build a Wordle clone, and I'm calling it Coldle, because of course I am, because I'm silly. And the way we're going to set it up is we're going to have the gameplay, the actual gameplay that's going to happen is going to be in JavaScript. So we're using code that was provided by Free Code Camp. Thank you, Free Code Camp. They're an awesome place, by the way, if you want to learn more about programming in almost any other language, especially JavaScript. They're awesome. And CF is going to be used for a few things. By the end of it, it will be used for the word list. And I'm going to show you, I built a little basic like add and delete words thing. So we'll use that for the word list. It's going to be used for the name tracking for who the person is that's playing the game. And it's going to be used for scorekeeping and display. Now, is this publicly available for all of you to start playing? It's not. And there's a few reasons why. There's no lockouts here for people to put bad things in. Not that I don't trust you, Scott, but I just didn't want there to be any incidents with people putting bad things in there. I'm sorry. I give Scott a bad time. Scott is like the world's nicest person. I love him to death. He's like my brother from another mother. But what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to download the code from my GitHub and run it yourself and put it up somewhere yourself if you wanted to do it in the way it is right now, or if you wanted to use authentication, which is what I would recommend, to actually have someone authenticate. So you have their email, you have a password or something, and then that way it'll prevent people from, I don't know, writing bad stuff and having, big jerk name, whatever. But also it'll keep you from saying your Mark Takata and then failing Codal, because that would never happen, right? Come on. So what's in the stack? What am I using to build this? It's 5 letters, AE. It's 5 letters, not 4. I'm dumb, but I'm not that. I may be dumb, but if there's one thing that I'm not, it's dumb. So what's in the stack? So pretty basic stuff. So Google Fonts, Toaster, Animate. These are all things that FreeCodeCamp chose to put in the stack, and I thought they were good for using. Obviously the fonts are for the font display. They look good. Toaster is something that pops up like, oh, you've won, or oh, you didn't win, right? It's kind of a replacement for the alert, and that looks nicer. You can style it, so they use that. There's a few different ones of those out there, but this is a nice one. And Animate actually allows you to do kind of some fun visual effects when you're actually doing your words, right? And so again, it's this fun visual addition to your game, which helps make the player's experience a little bit better. So then what am I adding to it? So I am adding Hdmx, and if you are not familiar with Hdmx, Hdmx is essentially what HTML should have been. It's a fully hyper version of HTML. It allows you to add any verb to any DOM object, no matter what it is. You can trigger off of anything. You can put anything in anything. You can replace anything with anything else. It's a really, really simple but super, super powerful library, and I highly recommend people to check it out. It makes building things like this really, 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 really awesome. And I'll show you a little bit of how I used it. And it's great. So I use Jquery because, I don't know, I'm old and dumb, and I just use Jquery to make accessing things. Could you do this in vanilla? Yeah, totally. You don't need Jquery for what I did, but I just sort of throw it in there because why not? I do it. Mariadb is what I'm using as the backend. And funny fact, I actually am hosting the database over in HostTech. And yesterday, when I was going to add the ability to have multiple Codal games with different sets of words, their PHP MyAdmin decided to break horribly and I love HostTech normally, but they broke in just the worst possible time for me. So that feature is not in there. You'll actually see where I was going to go do that in my code. But right now there's only one word list that's supported, and I'll kind of show you where I was going with how it actually works. And then of course, ColdFusion 2021. Does anybody here ever heard of ColdFusion? Heck yeah, you did, because it's awesome. Again, the code is from CodeCamp. Okay, let's do the demo because holy moly, I'm running out of time. All right, so here we go. So what I'm going to show you first is, so this is the import. Sorry, my bad. Not, come on. Here we go. Okay, so what you get from FreeCodeCamp is you get some really, really important things to do this running in JavaScript. And I know demo. I always have to, don't you know, never do demos with live code, ever. Or children or dogs. Never, because one of them will take a dump on your floor. So this is what you get. No, John, No, wait, be patient. So this is what you get from them. Now you'll see you import the words from words.js, which is here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be replacing, John, with ColdFusion. And it sets a bunch of stuff in JS. Now, if I were a betting man, which I am, and the way that this is set up originally could be done all on the ColdFusion side, and I think that's a really good thing to move it over. But again, this is someone is giving you free code, so use it and then see what you can make from it. So if I were just to throw this together and run it, what you'd get is you'd get a Wordle clone with the words coming from here. So I had a few cold related words that I had put in it, right? Okay, but that's not ColdFusion, as has been pointed out. That's JavaScript. Well, so how are we going to take that and put it into CF? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put the word list into a database. And hold on. So let me, 1 second. I should have had this up. Boop, boop. Don't mind me. PHP, my admin. Okay. So here is, they left their test. Thank you, HostDeck, for leaving your test. So I made a database. And in that database, I've got a table called table words. And it's got a word ID, the text for it. And you can see here, I actually added game ID. Build my backend first. That's the whole point of this, John. If you could build the backend first, you'd know what you were doing, and you wouldn't need to be here. You'd already be making games and be rich. I'm trying to make it easy for people, right? You're sort of backing it in, right? You're sort of getting it running, seeing things happening and fixing it, and then going, what can I replace with ColdFusion? And slowly, like a virus, you take over until everything is ColdFusion. Okay. So you'll see I actually have a game ID, but if you look at my code, I am not pulling, well, I am pulling it, but I'm not using it. So what I do is I go in and I just, use my CF query tag and I pull it back and I output the text into a list here. And actually at the end of it, I have to make sure there's not a trailing comma, because I'm just using exactly what was there before. Now, if I was doing this all in ColdFusion, I just make an array and use the array and run through the array for all the words. But because we're sort of doing this in JS, you'll see I replaced the script.js with .cfm so that I could do some queries in there. Ooh, Catan for CF, I'm in. So, okay, but you might be saying, well, wait a minute. How are those words getting in there? So I built a very, very basic add words feature. So someone give me a 5-letter word to put in. Anybody? Frame. Okay. Is 4 letters, John. Toast. Starts. Okay, so what you're seeing here is this is a very, very simple, very basic insert word thing that I built, and it looks, it is literally, and this would be a back end for someone that you would do. And this is what it looks like. Basically, I'm passing I'm passing the word into itself, and I'm doing an insert with the text. Now, what I would do here in the future, because I want to support multiple Coldle games with multiple word sets, I would actually have you either choose the word set, or more likely, each person who creates a new game is the person who can add new sets to it. We'll talk about some updating. Where was the validation? It's in the actual. It's just in the max length. It's just here. Yeah. This is not. I'm not shipping this. This is the basics, right? Like we just want to build this so that we can have these things in there. Okay. So let's look at the main page because this is going to be important for everyone. You can see all this code up top is stuff that was included in the free code camp. Yeah, this is pre-alpha, folks. This is pre-alpha. You will take it to beta and then ship it and become multi-billionaires with Codal 2.0, the reckoning. It's going to be amazing. Now you're probably saying, well, wait, where the hell is all the where's all the interfaces, right? So this is where Hdmx comes in. Yes, please, John, hack into my computer locally and inject my script. It was doing. I would like to add, by the way, it is using Jquery param, so you're not injecting anything into my stuff. But anyway, so how does this work? So let me back up just a second and talk about how Hdmx works. So here in the body tag, I've got an HX trigger. So HX, this is sort of the thing that will let you know that you're using Hdmx. HX dash is the prefix for using anything Hdmx based. So what I do here is on load. So this is basically on load of the body. I go and get welcome.cfm and I target the viewport ID. Where's the viewport ID? It's right here. So this div right here, this empty div is where I'm going to target, and I'm going to take welcome.cfm and I'm going to inject it, John's favorite word, inject it right into here. What does that look like? So that looks like this. So here, welcome is just this. So we've got a username, right? We've got a button, and we set the username. And we actually send it into the process. We send it into the JavaScript to hold it until later, so that we can put it into the database to figure out what the player's doing. So I'm going to put, just because. There we go. Definitely Scott Kelly playing. So now we're playing. Okay, where did all this come from, Mark? What the heck? Okay, again, this is stuff that we took from the free code camp site. Okay, so the free code camp site gives us the game board, and it gives us the keyboard, and it gives us all the JavaScript that is going to initialize that board, that's going to go through and track how you're interacting with it. Okay, so all of this it was kind of included in there. And this is kind of what I was saying before about taking code that people have provided to start your first game. Like when I did Hyperhue, the game where you track the different colors, I didn't have any of this. I had to write all this myself. It took me, I don't know, 3 weeks. Luckily, I'm both patient and just extremely stubborn. I am the Dom. So I am very, very patient, and I did that all myself. Would I want to do that again? No, definitely not. I would not want to do that again. So what I did is I used all of this stuff, and I'm not going to really go over it line by line because this is CF, this is JavaScript, and to be honest, all of you here probably can go by this and figure out okay, well, you're tracking which key was pressed, which class name, right? You're gonna use next letter, right? This is animating this box. There's a delete, there's a check guess, right? So all this stuff is JavaScript up until right here. So this function, insert score, is is actually a JavaScript function which calls in, well, in this case, it's not an API, it's a page that I just send information to. So I send information to insert score when I complete successfully a game. So let's see what that looks like, because it's easier to tell. So let's look at, okay, these are the words that we have. We have froze, frame, toast, and start. So let's start with start, because I like that. Let's start with start. Enter. Ooh, Scott, you're not doing very well, buddy. It's not going well. Oh, buddy. Okay. Well, let's see. What were the other frame? Maybe frame? I know this is wrong, but since I'm playing a Scott, I don't care. Oh, hey. So good at words. So FR and E are in the right space. And by the way, all of this is in that JavaScript code, right? So this is duplicating what was already written in Wordle. And full disclosure, I am sure that Free CodeCamp folks just took the same code as Wordle had and just put it in here. It does work a little tiny bit differently. Like, as you might know, Wordle takes one word per day that everybody guesses, right? This is a slightly different form of that. It randomly picks a word out of a word list, and it's different for every person. So that's a little bit of a change. So this is actually a slightly different game. Let's see, what other words do we have? Toast. Is it toast? Oh gosh, Scotty bud. Oh man, this is bad. All right, I don't know if we're, I guess, froze. Let's try froze. I don't think this is it, but maybe. Oh my gosh, Scott, you did it. You did it, Scott. You got it. So Scott Kelly guessed the word froze in 4 tries. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay. Oh, sorry. So obviously, your word list would have hundreds, if not thousands, of words, and it wouldn't be quite this way. And you know, like it would be a little bit different. But let's talk about what happened when this won. So when Scott guessed the word froze, it went into here. Sorry. It went into check guess, right? And if the guess was successful, it would fire all this off, one of which is this insert score, and I build a success string. And by doing that, basically, I use the username, which we put in earlier, which was Scott Kelly, guess the word, the string for the right word in, and then the number of tries that it took them to do it. And it takes that and it inserts them into the database using this. And this is basically a very basic, and again, this is like, I don't know, you could probably inject stuff in here. I don't know. I don't care. It's fine. But this is kind of how I built this game out, right? So, and here, this little thing here is a Hdmx pane that is refreshing itself. Let's take a look at index. It's called top scores, and it triggers every 2 seconds. And it goes and gets the scores using topscores.cfm, which is right here. And I decided to go CF script, just, you know, so I wasn't so old school, so people wouldn't be like, that guy doesn't know how to do CF script. So there you go. So you just do a select there. You order by ID, descending. You execute it, you output it, and that drops it right in here. And you can kind of see I've got a lot of info here. These are all the times I was testing it with all sorts of different things. So now what could you do with this? Well, you could always style these so they could look a little bit better. You could have a top, like top guessers, top 10, like who use the least guesses to do the most number of words and do that calculation and stack those in a top 10 list that gets updated every few minutes. It is so much fun. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are loving this, because this was the most fun webinar that I had that I've ever put together. So really quick, that's basically most of the code, and you'll find that link, GitHub Codal Talk there. HTMX is super fun. Now, what would I do to continue improving this? What would I change in the future, right? Because this is very basic, as John was pointing out. There's the way that it's sending code is maybe not great. This is very much a prototype. It's a proof of concept, right? So what would I fix? The first thing that I would fix is put as much of this into ColdFusion as possible. It's totally doable because it's doing a lot of the rendering kind of on the screen. You could do things like the total number of word counts, all that. You could do all that in the back. You don't have to re-render this, but you could use Hdmx to re-render the stuff every single time you have a guess and put it back up. But more important than that, I would add authentication, because you'd like to be able to track the people that are doing this. You'd like to be able to track the number of successful tries that they've done and maybe have a list of them so they could see like the last 10 times that they did it. I think that's fun. People like to see their progress over time and which words they've tried, which words they haven't. So that's really important. I would actually love to have a little dashboard, and you could totally do this, where it shows who is playing and maybe how long they've been playing, how many seconds they've been active, and have something that maybe turns off after, if they started playing an hour ago, they probably are not playing anymore, so it'll get rid of them, right? Yes, you can use Hdmx to refresh anything in the DOM, anything, anywhere, at any time, in any way. It's ridiculously powerful. Yes, beef up your logging so that you could see what the other John is doing to try and hack your internets. The other big thing that I did want to add, and like I said, it was in the middle of adding it when I had, of course, freaking PHP MyAdmin decided to blow up. And by the way, if anyone knows people at Hostech, please ask them to update PHP MyAdmin to the new version, please. To on 4.7, 4.9 is the latest version. I'm guessing that was part of the issue. That would be really nice. Love them to death. They're my favorite host, but they really need to update that. I would add multiple word sets across multiple games. This is actually something I talked to my wife about. She is a science communicator. She works for the state. She works with Delta region biology, and she does a lot of conferences, a lot of symposia, a lot of meetings where people are online, and they always are doing these icebreaker events. And an idea that I had was she could make a version of this game with 5-letter words from the Delta. Delta is a 5-letter word. OMG, right? You could do that, and you could have people play, and you could see who's playing, and people can get into it and have fun and maybe have a little chat there, right? It would be super fun and super easy to do. All they would have to do is type the words in and make their own, Wordle, and they're off to the races. And then the next 3, I'm just kidding. Dynamic ray tracing is not going to happen. Battle Royale mode, I put that in as sort of a I put that in as a joke, but actually it might be fun to choose four people that you want to play against and all play against the same word in a timed event. So first person to it eliminates someone else, right? And then the next person eliminates someone else until there's only one person standing. Totally doable, and doable using ColdFusion. So there you go. If by the way, if any of you get rich off of my ideas, send me some beer. Thank you. And then llamas. And that was also a joke, but also not really a joke. Having multiple letter versions would be fun too. And so anyway, questions, comments, songwriting requests. And by the way, there's like make your own Wordle things out there. Again, we're not like reinventing the wheel here. So someone is asking to do a 90-day challenge, and I think that's a really good idea. I would like to see all the folks here try to see if they can make a game in the next 3 months. Let's have this. Let's look back in 3 months. What's 3 months from now? To August, September, October, November. In November, I will take time in my November webinar and talk about some games that people made in ColdFusion. Let's do it. Anybody who's interested, email me, Takata at adobe.com, and let's do it. Let's build a ColdFusion game library. Who's in? Yeah, Scott. Card game like Magic the Gathering. Absolutely 100%. Yes, Jim. See, Jim, I can't come to Ohio in October because I'm gonna be in Vegas. Other way, Jim, other way. Bring your family to Vegas. It's family friendly now. Arthur, yeah, totally. If you send a link, I can put them in the web links area, or this is being recorded, so hopefully people will just be able to see that. Mod the current code to allow video RTC so people join the same video screen and watch people trying to. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, I like this. This is what I want. This is like community built games are amazing, right? Like it doesn't have to be some crazy hyper realistic, ray trace thing to be a success. In fact, I think the opposite is true. People want to see things that are familiar, that are fun, and that you're playing against other people in like a fun way. I don't know if anybody here has ever played the game Hades, but I am fully like addicted to that game, and it is such a basic and simple like concept. Like you go through a dungeon. I mean, obviously, very well done, rendered exquisitely well. The voice acting is amazing. Like I'm not downplaying any of the quality. But the concept of going through and having like this person fly around and shoot things and do whatever is like, it's been done so many times, but they did it so well. Flappy Bird. Bill hit the nail on the head. Flappy Bird was one of the most... Thank you, Arthur, for linking those. So folks, grab those links if you're interested in checking out some code. Arthur has some code for some HTML games. And yeah, like check them out. Let's like put together our heads and build some games together. Like that's something that happens a lot in the JavaScript community. I want to see that with CF folks. Like build a team. Find some folks that are really good at database access, and maybe you're better at like the rendering part or whatever, or maybe you're good at the logic, and just come together and build something amazing and fun. And let's share it in November. Super, super cool. I'm so excited. All right, well, we just have a minute left. So my contact information is currently on the screen. My email is Takata, Takata, at adobe.com. My door is always open. My Twitter is at Mark Takata. I'm always on Twitter, apparently. I have it like logged into my brain constantly. My GitHub is github.com/Mark R Takata. That R is important in there. My LinkedIn is there as well. I'm on CFML Slack as Mark Takata Adobe. I'm on there quite a lot. And if you are interested in grabbing some time in an office hour, I'm actually, oh, that's the wrong link. Sorry, there should be a Calendly link. Well, anyway, email me if you want to hang out. How about that? Thank you. Please, no, I do not. In fact, I welcome LinkedIn requests. Please connect with me. Please, like, I love to chat. I love to learn about new folks in the community. I want to know what you're doing in ColdFusion. I want to know what you're doing with ColdFusion. I want to know what you want to have in ColdFusion. We're here to make this product better. We want to be around for the next 25 years, and we can only do that with the help of the community. So, oh, Scott, you're too sweet. I'm hardly a leader. I'm just the loudest person in the room because I'm the only one who's allowed to have a mic turned on. Awesome, awesome. Oh, no. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, thank you so much for joining me. I've had a blast. Thank you for all of you for just coming out and putting up with me ranting about video games for an hour. I'm really excited to see what all of you come up with. This has been a great fun. And yeah, hope to see a lot of you in October. If I don't see you in October, I want to see all of you back here in November. And we will talk about games that people have put together. Maybe we'll go over some of the code. It'll be super fun. I can't wait to see what all of you come up with. If you need inspiration or have questions about how to do things, or just want me to do a super cool logo with like a wolf and a wolf on fire jumping through a glass of Kool-Aid, I don't know. Just let me know, and we'll put it together. Again, thank you. I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna turn the recording off. Or actually, Apoorva, if you could